Blog Talk Radio.
We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. Sit quietly and we will control all that you hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong. You are about to participate in a great adventure.
We interrupt this program with a special bulletin. America is now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been suspended. Stay in your home. Do not attempt to contact loved ones, insurance agents, or attorneys. Shut up. Do not attempt to think or depression may occur. Stay in your home. Curfew is at 7 p.m. sharp after work. Anyone caught outside the gates of their subdivision sectors after curfew will be shot. Remain calm. Do not panic. Your neighborhood watch officer will be by to collect urine samples in the morning. Anyone caught interfering with the collection of urine samples will be shot. Stay in your home. Remain calm. The number one enemy of progress is question. National security is more important than individual will. All sports broadcasts will proceed as normal. No more than 2 people may gather anywhere without permission. Use only the drugs prescribed by your boss or supervisor. Shut up! Be happy. Obey all orders without question. The comfort you've demanded is now mandatory. Be happy. At last, everything is done for you.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Otter Limits Radio. I'm your host, Steve Long, coming here from Edmond, Oklahoma. We've got a pretty good show lined up tonight for you. Later on, I will be talking with Brittany Pounders of Liberty Juice. I'm also going to have Taylor Millard on later on in the show. And then going to play some music for you, of course. Going to have some pop culture stuff going on with you. We're going to have our Once Upon a Time in America segment in a little bit. But just wanted to let you know what was going on for the show tonight. Of course, we're going to start off with our news. So there were some rumors floating around that former Oklahoma Governor Brad Henry was going to attempt to run for governor against Mary Fallin next year. State Democratic Chairman Wallace Collins was hinting at the possibility. He had said that he spoke to Henry, and Henry told him never say never. Since those rumors have floated around, Brad Henry has said that he is not planning on running against Mary Fallin. I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that he's not necessarily eligible to run. The state constitution of Oklahoma was amended back in 2010, his last year in office, to set term limits for that office. The new amendment states that no governor can serve more than 2 terms, total of 8 years. Before that, the Constitution said that you can serve more than 8 years, but they cannot be consecutive. In other words, you can't serve 8 years, or you can't serve 8 years, wait 4 years, and then run for another term. So the state constitution now, as amended, basically just says that 8 years is the limit. You cannot lifetime. Can't run more than 2 terms. And Brad Henry served 2 4-year terms in succession. So by law, he served his allowed time. I mean, I personally like the guy, but he's not eligible to run. However, if you have been paying attention to this show, among other media outlets, there is a person running for the Democratic nomination to defeat Mary Fallin next year, and that's R.J. Harris. If you remember, we had him on the show a few weeks back, and we're hoping to see what he does. He's a libertarian kind of guy, which is why I kind of like him. But he's running as a Democrat, which is pretty hard to do in the state of Oklahoma. But we'll see how that turns out. In any case, another rumor that was spreading around was that House Speaker John Bonner might be retiring after the midterm elections next year. You know, if those rumors are true, that's some really great news. I haven't heard any further confirmation on those, but I'd really like to. I'd really love to see that happen. Unfortunately, the next person in line, so to speak, for the speaker position is Eric Cantor. So there's really not much of an improvement there. The Washington, D.C. City Council is considering a bill to decriminalize marijuana. If it's passed, possession of up to an ounce of marijuana would result in a fine, but no jail time. There are some activists that are pushing instead for full legalization, but the author of the bill, Councilmember Tommy Wells, is saying he is not sure the city is ready for that. This bill to decriminalize, however, is expected to pass. House Democrat Charlie Rangel is pushing Congress to reinstate the military draft, claiming that military service should be mandatory. He states military service should not be optional because the burden of war unfairly falls on lower income Americans. Okay, first of all, mandatory military service is basically forced servitude, and should be, if it's not, completely unconstitutional. Rangel's idea of a National Draft Act completely flies in the face of liberty. And this idea of the burden of war falling on lower income Americans, one thing, this is another example of the left trying to punish the wealthy. If some rich guy's kid doesn't want to join the military, he shouldn't have to. It's his option. On the same side of the coin, if some poor American doesn't want to join the military, he shouldn't have to either. It's entirely optional. Nobody's forcing these lower income or this lower income demographic to join the military. Congress Rangel, he's kind of off his rocker. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union recently voted to split from the AFL-CIO, that's the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, that's kind of like the mega union. Among the problems that they have had with this, that this union has had with the AFL-CIO is, and this probably comes as no surprise to you, Obamacare. The president of the union, Robert McElrath, stated that the Federation, he's referring to the AFL-CIO, is destroying the labor movement by compromising on issues such as health care benefits. The ILWU, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, is a labor union that was formed in 1937 and represents mostly dock workers. It claims nearly 60,000 members. The reason that I know about this union is they are a very huge union up in Washington State where I used to live, really big up in Seattle. For the most part, he is Washington State is a pretty huge union state. I'm not necessarily 100% pro-union. But the idea that that this union is breaking off from the mega union over Obamacare is pretty funny in my opinion. Just shows you that Obamacare does not have the backing of the unions they thought they did. So that is it for our news segment. Now we're going to jump into our next segment that everybody knows and loves. We're talking about Once Upon a Time in America. And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is where
Once Upon a Time in America.
Thanks for the delay. Once Upon a Time in America is the segment where I talk about events that had happened this week in history. Starting off with September 8th in 1892, the Pledge of Allegiance is recited for the first time. 1935, Senator Huey Long of Louisiana is assassinated by Carl Weiss at the state capitol. Just in case you're wondering, I don't think I'm related to him, even though we have the last name, because my side of the family isn't from the Bayou area. But anyway, also in 1966, on September 8th, Star Trek, the original series, premieres on television. Yay for Star Wars geeks. Star Trek geeks. Can't believe I've mixed those up. In 1974, President Gerald Ford pardons former President Nixon for crimes related to the Watergate scandal. On September 9th, the Continental Congress officially names its new Union of States the United States. That was in 1776. 1791, the capital of the United States is declared to be Washington, D.C. In 1850, California becomes the 31st state. 1956, Elvis Presley performs on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time. 1965, another useless government agency, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is established. And in 1966, President Lyndon Johnson signs the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. This is a law that gave the federal government the power to set safety standards for motor vehicles and traffic safety. September 11th, 1609, Manhattan Island is discovered by Henry Hudson. Hey, Henry Hudson, woohoo! He's got a bunch of bars named after him here in the metro area. Anyway, Manhattan Island was discovered by him. 1789, Alexander Hamilton is appointed as the first Secretary of the Treasury under President Washington. 1985, Ty Cobb's record for the most career hits is broken by Pete Rose with his 4,192nd hit. 2001, terrorists crashed commercial aircraft into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon in a suicide attack. Nearly 3,000 people are killed in that attack. 1 year ago, on September 11th, although this didn't happen in the United States, I'm going to include it anyway. Ambassador Christopher Stevens was killed along with 3 others at the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi, Libya, by a terrorist attack on the embassy. September 13th in 1788, New York City becomes the nation's temporary capital. And last one, September 14th in 1901, President McKinley dies after an assassination attempt. He is succeeded by Theodore Roosevelt. That's all we've got for Once Upon a Time in America. We're going to jump into our little entertainment bit. This one's kind of a random thing that I do. I do something different every week for this. I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do with this segment. But today, I'm going to be doing another one of my top 13 lists that you can see also on the website. That's otterlimits.us if you don't know. This is kind of in honor of an event that's going on later this week. This Friday on the, I want to say the 13th, the 13th, me and my wife will be going to see Weezer at Lucky Star Casino in Concho, Oklahoma. Strangely enough, even though Weezer is one of my favorite bands, strangely enough, I've never seen them in concert, and now we've got our chance to go finally see them. Anyway, so with that in mind, today's top 13 list comes from one that I did much earlier in the year, and this is my top 13 favorite Weezer songs. I'm going to be listing these in alphabetical order, because I can't really come up with this is my absolute favorite, this is my next time. It just doesn't, that whole descending order of preference thing or ascending order of preference. I just couldn't do it. I tried. Anyway, so alphabetical order. First one is Can't Stop Partying. That was released on the 2009 album Ratitude. Second one is Hang On. That was released in 2010 on Hurley. Number 3, I Woke Up in Love This Morning, also from Ratitude, 2009. Fourth one is also from Ratitude. It's Let It All Hang Out. Next one is from their 2005 album Make Believe. The song is My Best Friend. Number 6 is the song Only in Dreams. Comes from their 1994 self-titled album, also known as the Blue Album, Weezer. And number 7 is also from 2005's Make Believe. That one is Perfect Situation. Number 8 is Put Me Back Together, another one from Ratitude, 2009. Number 9 is another one from Hurley, and the name of that song is Ruling Me. Number 10 is Simple Pages. That one was released in 2001 from their Green album. Number 11 is The Greatest Man That Ever Lived. That is from their 2008 self-titled album. Also, I guess you could call that one the Red album. Number 12 is another one from the 1994 Blue album, The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. And the last one, number 13, comes from 2005's Make Believe. This Is Such a Pity. I got to tell you, that was when I originally did that list. It was pretty darn hard to do. Yeah, that was a rough one to do. They've got a lot of really good songs. In any case, that was the Weezer list. There are some other shows coming up that I'll be going to next month. Danzig is going to be doing his 25th anniversary tour. And I can't remember where that's at. Oh, it's the Diamond Ballroom sometime in October. I'm pretty excited to see it because he's going to be bringing Doyle on the road with him. So that is a pretty good indicator that he's going to be doing some Misfit stuff as well. And then in November at the Chesapeake Arena, Pearl Jam is actually going to make a stop here in Oklahoma, so that'll be another one of my favorite bands. That, strangely enough, again, I have not seen in concert. Even having lived in Seattle, I never got around to going and seeing them, so it'll be good to check them out finally. I'm sure there's some other stuff going on coming up in the next couple months, and I'll be sure to let you know what's going on. In any case, that's the end of our little entertainment. All right, that was part of Keepsake by Gaslight Anthem. Didn't realize that the sound file that I had for it cut off at the end. It sounded like the sound file was kind of muddled anyway. Anyway, so that was Gaslight Anthem. We'll probably be playing some more of their stuff later. Well, not today. But anyway, that's it for the song. And we are going to be bringing on Brittany from Liberty Juice. And we're going to talk about politics and the next campaign coming up. Liberty Juice. Brittany, you there?
I'm there.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show today. Brittany, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So let's just jump right in. I've got some questions for you, first of all. How long have you been politically active, and why did you initially get involved in politics?
That is a really good question. I was actually raised in a very politically active family. I grew up attending political rallies, and I have a family member that was one of the founding members of the Houston chapters, of the Right to Life. And I remember in the early 90s when pastors were being thrown in jail here in Houston for praying outside of abortion clinics, my parents would let me miss school, and I got to sit in on the court hearings at 11 or 12 years old. And those kind of moments were very defining in my life. My dad always had Rush On in the car growing up, and I remember being a kid listening to him espouse the principles of conservatism and thinking, why doesn't everyone believe this? It just makes sense. So politics has always been a very familiar presence in my life, and that just carried on into adulthood. And I've never been one of those that has been satisfied with sitting on the sidelines and griping. There's nothing that irritates me more than loud mouths who feel that their obligations end with their Facebook statuses or their Twitter posts and screaming at the news every night on the television. So I don't feel that unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get involved in some way, even small, that you have a right to complain. So I hate apathy. Our country is full of apathetic but ticked off people who are completely useless to any meaningful change. And so that's just carried on all through my life.
That's great. I really think more parents should get, more politically active parents should get their kids involved, as at as a young age as they possibly can. I mean, my parents, neither one of them were really all that politically active when I was growing up, so I'm not sure where I got it from, but
rubbed off on you somewhere.
Somebody rubbed off on me, but with me, my son, he's 9 now. He has been going to political events with me since he was 5 years old.
Right.
And he's just about as interested. Well, I would say he's pretty close to being just as interested in the process as I am.
Right.
For instance, last weekend he and I attended a war rally.
Right.
Saturday, and he goes to Republican conventions with me and various political activities. People need to do that with their kids.
Absolutely. I have a 13-year-old son, and we watched every debate together in our house, and he's full of questions, and it's a frequent topic at our dinner table, and so I think that's very important because they're the next generation.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be in charge one day, and they need to know what's happening and what's right and what's wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. That's great that you've got your 13-year-old involved. My son last presidential election time, he was a big Ron Paul fan. So he was kind of upset when Ron didn't win. But you know how that goes.
Absolutely.
All right, so tell me, how did this Liberty Juice come about?
About 4 years ago, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Chris Bounds, and we had an urge to get involved on a deeper level politically, and specifically to do our part to help educate this an unenlightened electorate in our country. And around that time, we both read a book called The 5,000-Year Leap, which was a life-changing book for us in defining exactly what we believed politics and the role of government was to be in our country. And we felt a strong sense of responsibility to carry forward the principles that were birthed by our founding fathers. They stated over and over again that in order to have a successful republic, that it would require, an informed and enlightened and educated electorate. And I think, in many ways we have failed them in this regard. So we decided to jump in with both feet, take our involvement up a notch, get involved in our community. We both became state delegates, decided at that point to start a website that was more dedicated to principles than to party. And, we've known for a long time that people in America are thirsty for information that they're just not getting from the mainstream media. So they're turning to the internet for their news. And so we wanted to be part of the solution instead of the masses who just sit around and gripe about the situation.
That's awesome. I mean, you're right in that I think a lot more people are tending to jump away from the two-party bandwagon. They're more interested in how to fix this country than they are to how to keep the powers that be in power. The left-right Republican-Democrat paradigm seems to be slipping away. And it's really great that we've got more media out there that people can kind of look that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm finding more that most people are, instead of defining themselves as Democrats or Republicans, you're hearing liberal and conservative more than anything. And I don't think that it's the left-right paradigm is declining as much as it's changing.
Yeah, I can see that. So what do you write for any other blogs or e-zines, newsletters, or anything like that?
Well, Liberty Juice keeps me busy, especially when you're juggling 3 kids, which I have. I have a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a baby, and lots of responsibilities with their schedule. But lately I've been a guest contributor to Clash Daily, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's another fantastic source of information. If you haven't visited it, it's clashdaily.com. Doug Giles is the founder. You might have seen him on Fox News or Fox Business occasionally. And his daughter is actually Hannah Giles, who posed as the prostitute with James O'Keefe and exposed Acorn. So he has been very kind and given me a platform to publish just about everything I send to him. And so in addition to that, there are a lot of people that use our website and our material to support their blogs, which is just fine by us.
Okay, good. So that before I forget to mention it, the URL for Liberty Juice it's just libertyjuice.com, right?
Correct. libertyjuice.com, yes.
So anybody that is out there, they're interested in seeing what Liberty Juice is about. That's
check out our site. Absolutely. Let us know what you think.
Definitely a great website.
Thank you.
So who are some people, I guess maybe politically speaking, that you look up to or respect?
Well, in politics, there's not a whole lot of people I respect these days. There are a few. I really do like Rand Paul. I don't agree with him 100%, which is probably where you and I differ a little bit. You're libertarian. I'm conservative that leans libertarian. I find myself agreeing with him more than I did his dad. But I like Ted Cruz. I worked a lot as a volunteer on his campaign. And so far, both of those guys have been very committed to doing what they've promised, which is important to me, and not caving to the pressures of Washington. So looking back further, if we're not looking in the modern day, I think one of the greatest women in history to me is Margaret Thatcher. Her incredible leadership and commitment to freedom and liberty through the very rough 80s is one that I just never get tired of hearing about. She was a rare breed, and so I think I'd have to look a bit further to really find those that I respect.
Yeah, I completely understand. So let's talk about one of your favorite people, South Carolina's senior senator, Lindsey Graham.
Oh, yes. We have an exciting race coming up. I think the whole country's going to be watching this one. It's one of those state races that everyone's going to have their eye on election night.
So tell me, just give me some thoughts, your own personal thoughts about Lindsey Graham. What has he done that's so wrong, or what has he not done that's so wrong, and what makes him the sleazebag that he is?
Right. Well, he needs to be voted out. He has been a consistently unreliable vote for us in the Senate. In fact, this last month, the South Carolina Republican leaders put together a blistering resolution to condemn Lindsey Graham for being, in their words, quote, fundamentally inconsistent with the principles of the South Carolina Republican Party. And it included 30 points, which I'll just go over a few. I'm going to throw this up on our website. It is up on our website, and I'm going to tweet it out afterwards for anybody who's interested, and they can get me at Liberty Brit on Twitter. But he has supported amnesty but no border control. He has sided with Ted Kennedy over Jim DeMint. He supported abridging the First Amendment for those who criticize the government, supported massive new Internet sales tax, supported subordinating American sovereignty to the United Nations. He has opposed medical malpractice tort reform, supported Obama's energy taxes and cap and trade, sided with Democrats on government regulation to combat climate change. The list just goes on and on. He's opposed making Bush tax cuts permanent, supported liberal proposals to nationalize banks, supported restrictions on the Second Amendment, supported Obama's drone programs against American citizens. He has supported granting members of the Muslim Brotherhood high-level positions in the United States government. And it just goes on and on, the list does. He is a sellout. He's a cop-out, and he climbs into bed with Democrats when it's politically expedient. And he has voted against the ideals of South Carolina over and over and over again. I will say that he knows what side his bread's buttered on. He's recently kind of tried to make nice with Republicans since he knows that it's election year. And for once, his American conservative rating for 2012 was 92%, which is higher than it's ever been because it's an election year. I think the previous year was 79%. And I don't know about you, but if my kid brought home a 79 on an assignment, he's in trouble. We're going to sit down and reevaluate and take some things away until he gets back on track. But that's Lindsey Graham. He's a sellout until election year. He behaves a bit, and then he goes back to honeymooning with John McCain. Yeah. So it's absolutely time for him to go.
That article that had the list, is that the one for somewhere in the title was he needs a pink slip?
Yes. The real rhino, Lindsey Graham, time for a pink slip.
Yeah, definitely the listeners, anybody listening out there definitely needs to check out that one. That was a great article.
Right, thank you. Appreciate that. It's a telling year. He's never had a tough campaign. He was a congressman. He ran in 2002 for the Senate for Strom Thurmond's seat, and he basically ran unopposed because there just was not a decent candidate running against him. His last election, again, nobody strongly opposed him. And I think, talking heads in South Carolina seem to think that this is just going to be an easy walk for him, but I think that they underestimate how little the people of South Carolina know of his voting record. And once he's exposed, which is what we're trying to do, it's going to be a formidable battle. So, this is what we need to be talking about, his record, how often he's been with us, how often he's been against us. Does South Carolina really want that as their undependable representation for their state? So, it's going to be a tough race, but I think that it's doable. I think that if we're talking and exposing his record, that we can boot him.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a race that can be won by somebody else. I mean, this guy Lindsey Graham, he is one of the reasons why the Senate, the U.S. Senate, is so
wishy-washy.
Is so liberal. Is so liberal because you've got people that claim that they're conservative, but their voting record shows completely different. So
yes.
The key to I really think the key to taking back the government and restoring liberty in some way or another is going to be with the Senate. If we can't get back control of the Senate, then we're in trouble.
Right,
we're
that's exactly right.
Like this running the country. Now, who do you know of? I've only heard a couple of names, but who do you know of that is going to be running against him, at least primary-wise?
Right. Well, there are some really great people involved in this race so far that have thrown their hat in. Their quality, which makes it exciting and makes the situation hopeful. One of the first ones that you've probably heard of is Nancy Mace.
Yeah.
She is one of the first to throw her hat in the ring. She's the first female to graduate from the Citadel. She's a small business owner. She founded a consulting business called the Mace Group. And, she's out there. She's saying a lot of really great things, espousing a lot of conservative principles. But we've seen this before, people who run with lots of promises, and the problem is they have no record to run on. So there's no vote of confidence. And then they get to Washington, and we're so surprised when they don't do what they say that they're going to do because they've never lived under the pressures of politics. And so I think that she's going to be a good, strong candidate probably someday. I'm not sure she's quite ready for this race just yet. I'm not sure that her first rung on the ladder should be running for United States Senator. I think if she started a little lower, built a record, built trust, that she could be a very formidable candidate in the future. So she's somebody to watch for sure. Another one that they have running is Richard Cash, who is also a very decent candidate. He ran a really great campaign against Jeff Duncan for Congress a while back. And even though he didn't win it, there were 6 people in that race. He came a very close second, and he's proved that he's made of some really great principles. The problem is he doesn't have the grassroots support, and he doesn't have a statewide name ID, to run on to mount a credible campaign, I don't believe. But I think he's one of those two that is great for South Carolina and that he's going to be a good candidate someday. But the one that I am the most excited about, that I'm really watching closely, is Lee Bright. And I feel that out of all of the candidates, he might just be poised well enough with a very strong conservative record in the South Carolina Senate to take Graham down. Have you heard of Lee Bright?
Yeah, that's the other name I was thinking of that I'd heard. Now, is he related to R. Lee Bright?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I can find out.
I'm a Texas girl, so I'm watching this from across the country and throwing my weight behind whoever it is that I see as the front runner. But he's known as one of the most conservative members in the state Senate. Right. He has a 100% pro-life record, 100% rating from the Life PAC. He sponsored multiple pieces of pro-life legislation, including the Personhood Act, which protects unborn children beginning at conception. The Club for Growth has given him the title of Taxpayer Heroes in the Senate. He's received the highest score in the legislature graded by the Upstate Tea Party. It goes on. I mean, he's got a straight A rating from the NRA. His votes show that he's exceptionally strong in regards to the Second Amendment, and he was the lead sponsor for the Firearms Freedom Act, the Constitutional Carry Bill. He's been a lead voice on the Freedom of Choice health care bill, which is the Obamacare Act opt-out. So he's got quite an extensive record that he can run on. People know him. And, in fact, they just came out with a poll, I think it was on Friday, which was really exciting to see. Incumbents are hard to get rid of, as we know. Once they're in and established, we're stuck with them sometimes for a while without an act of God. And so a new poll came out on Friday that showed that Graham, his lead is really starting to erode. He is under 50%, which is a big deal. And he's still at 42, but still to get under 50 is showing that, with only 3 weeks in the race, Lee Bright being in second place is an eye-opener. And it's important for us to realize that because South Carolina laws are that you have to win a primary with 50% of the vote or it goes to the runoff with the top 2, which is, most likely going to happen. And, I think I would personally be the most comfortable seeing Bright go toe-to-toe with him in that scenario.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about him. I haven't gotten any responses from my I put some requests in to get him on the show, but he's probably a pretty busy guy. So
yes, he is. I know that he's being probably put through the ringer right now.
So you say you're from Texas.
I am from Texas.
What district and who's your
Fort Bend County, Ted Cruz.
So you've got a good one.
We did. We worked really hard. Texas is very similar to South Carolina in the sense that we have the same primary laws, that if they didn't win by 50% of the vote, then it went to the runoff. And so we were down to David Dewhurst and Ted Cruz, and it was an enormous grassroots effort on our part to get Ted Cruz elected. It was quite a milestone that we're really, really proud of.
So, yeah, that's congratulations in order about having a good congressman.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I live in Oklahoma's 5th district, which is James Lankford. He's one of those, he disappointed a lot of people.
Right.
And is disappointing a lot of people. I would say that he was disappointing to me, except I didn't have any real high expectations of him to begin with. I had moved to Oklahoma in the middle of the primary season in 2010 from Washington State, which is a huge blue state. But I had my money on a different horse. Let's put it that way. When I first got there, and I'd listen to James do his speeches and his commercials, and I don't really trust this guy. I hope he doesn't win. Unfortunately, he won. And he is, one of those big disappointments. He's one of those characters, he's an incumbent now, so he's really hard to beat.
Right.
And there's talk of some people. Nobody is no real viable name has come out.
Right.
Against him, and a lot of it has to do with, unfortunately, the state Republican Party. And I'm sure you know this, but Oklahoma is a huge red state, huge Republican state, which you think would be good, but the state Republican Party is 100% behind him, and they've got this attitude that he can do no wrong. So, I don't know if it's such a great thing that we live in such a red state in times like that, when you've got somebody who really needs to get out of office, and the state Republican Party does not back you on that idea.
Well, and it's putting somebody up that's a viable option, and that's really where I think we have to get busy. Is I like the two-party system. I know it's a controversial topic. I don't see any other option at this point in our country that's a winning option. It's not perfect by any means, and you have people that go each go around that swear they're going to protest by casting a vote for a third party, which I completely understand that. But my answer is, you can whip a skunk, but it ain't worth it. You may feel better after you slam down your ballot in the box, but at the end of the day, you lose, and those consequences can be felt for a lifetime. So, I think that's why so many people these days are identifying themselves as a conservative first and a Republican second. I vote Republican every time because they are the closest party to my ideals and my moral belief system. But my thoughts are, if you're dissatisfied with the two-party system or what the Republicans are putting up, that they aren't voting conservative enough or standing on principles, then everybody has to get involved. They have to help change and steer the conversation, and you have a greater chance of succeeding that way than by winning by casting a third-party vote right now. And so, like I said, if more people would get involved with their local party and change the conversation, then I think new, strong, principled conservative candidates can be birthed out of that movement, and that's what is important.
Yeah, I mean, we're not so much concerned with party. We're, like you said, we're more concerned with principle, and it is a hard road to travel, but we definitely need to get more viable candidates, and that's going to start with, like you said, getting more people involved at the local level.
Right.
There's a lot of important stuff going on at the federal level, definitely. To get people like Lankford and Lindsey Graham out of office. But there's a lot of other people that are more concerned with, and rightly so, more concerned with what is going on, locally, because like Tip O'Neill said, all politics is local.
Right.
So if we can just get people involved at the local level, or the state level, it'll eventually. What am I trying to say? It'll eventually.
We have hopes of a change at that point.
Yeah. I mean, because people like Wright in South Carolina. He's a state legislator.
Yeah. There's some good guys that we need to dig down and throw our support behind and help move up those rungs to speak for us. Absolutely.
Almost like in some ways, local and even county and state politics is kind of almost like a training ground for these people.
It is. It is. It's a testing ground so that we can see how they behave under pressure, because there are pressures at every level of government. And if you can, the Bible says, be faithful over little, I can make you master over much. And it's a very similar concept to in politics. If you can't be faithful over the little things, then we shouldn't be putting you in charge of the big stuff.
Right. So I just wonder where those people were when Lindsay was.
Well, that's the thing is, he was given a chance, and he has proved himself to be a sellout. And now it's time to bring him home. We have seen that. We have learned our lesson. We didn't know. They didn't know when they sent him to this, state senate that. Or the United States Senate, that this is what would come out of it. And now that we know, and we have some good people finally up there that are ready to go toe-to-toe, because politics at that level when you're running can get very ugly. And some people don't want to, good people, we lose good people that don't want to subject themselves to that kind of torture. And so we've got a few brave ones that are ready to step up and go nose-to-nose with this guy. And we definitely, even though we may not live in South Carolina, we need to throw our support, be it financially or through the social media or spreading the word behind guys like this that can go and help us change, Washington. Because even though they're not our senators, they absolutely make choices that affect us as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's a great point. I mean, Lindsey Graham is not you or I senator, but
correct.
Anything they do affects what we do.
Absolutely. So we need to care.
Yeah, I mean, when you live in where I'm at, you've got two senators that are, they're all right, I guess. I'd prefer somebody else, but those races, for the most part, those are we're only having one this time around, but it's really all locked up already. There's not any chance of. No matter what the politicians around here say, we've got Jim Inhofe, who's running for re-election. That race is locked up. There's really no way that anybody has a chance to beat him. It's inevitable. So, people like me that are in Oklahoma, we can focus elsewhere as far as Senate races go.
Exactly. I agree.
So definitely, people, and look at you. You've got, Ted Cruz, of course. Who's gonna? He's probably not in any danger of losing his job. To be honest,
he's doing a great job. We will work to keep him there as long as he does that.
So I mean, on one hand, you don't want to be complacent, and you don't want him to lose, but you got to kind of think realistically that there's probably not much of a chance for him to lose.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, you don't want to be complacent. So those are the three that are running against Graham in the primary. Have you heard of anybody?
I haven't heard about the Democratic side of it yet. I've been so focused with this new primary. I mean, Libertarian just threw his hat in the ring 3 weeks ago, so it's a baby race at this point, and yet he's made such great strides in just a few weeks. I'm very hopeful. So once we get past that, then I guess we can begin to look at the other side of things as well. But if he can beat Lindsey Graham, I'm confident that South Carolina will send him to the Senate.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If he actually wins that primary, God willing.
He's got it, absolutely.
Then yeah, there's...
Just like Ted Cruz. It's a very, very similar race between Ted Cruz and David Dewhurst that we saw here in Texas. It's almost a mirror image in South Carolina. So once Ted won the primary, he won the race.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
No, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on and speak to your audience. I had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, it was good having you. We'll have to get you on again later on in primary election season and talk about some other stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again.
Thanks for coming on, Brittany.
All righty. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was Brittany Pounders of Liberty Juice. Again, if you want to check out that website, it is a really good website. It's definitely worth checking out. It's libertyjuice.com. So if you don't have time to write that down, you can go to my website, autolimits.us, and I am almost absolutely. All right, folks, welcome back to Auto Limits Radio. Again, I'm your host, Steve Long, here in Edmond, Oklahoma. We just got through talking to Brittany Pounders of Liberty Juice, and now we're going to have Joining us, Taylor Millard. He writes for the Free Radical Network as well as Misfit's Politics, and he's also the co-host of Right War, which is an internet-based radio show on FTR Radio, Wednesdays at 11 Eastern Time. So let's bring him on. Taylor, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you doing? I'm shocked that I can talk because, apparently J.K. Rowling is writing more Harry Potter books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is news.
That gives me more time to catch up on, the fact that I've read all but the last one.
Wow.
So that gives me more time to catch up.
That's good. That's good. So, Free Radical Network. What's that all about? How did that get started?
Well, Free Radical Network was actually, if I understand it correctly, I'm just a contributor there. I'm not, I'm not the head honcho or anything. That would be Felicia Craven's something fishy, IE on Twitter. It's really a place where that is supposed to be, really a place where people can espouse their opinion no matter which side they're on. Obviously, you tend to have more conservatives and libertarians there. That's something that I think everybody kind of should not be surprised at all by that because Fishy co-founded the Houston Tea Party, and that should kind of say what the leanings tend to be. But I got hooked up with them when they used to be on OTNN, OwnTheNarrative.com, and then they decided to go do their own stuff. So that's how I got hooked up with them, and they don't mind me talking comic books from time to time. So that's kind of a nice thing as well.
That's awesome.
When I'm not blogging about Texas.
Yeah, I remember reading something somewhere, a blurb about you, something about you usually are thinking about liberty, freedom, hockey, baseball, and comic books, and I thought that's a great combination.
Yeah. Well, I am a massive Dallas Stars fan. I'm down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I'm a massive Dallas Stars fan. I'm a massive Texas Rangers fan, long-suffering Texas Rangers fan.
Yeah.
Love the Mavs. The Cows are okay, but if anyone thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl every year, they need to get their ears checked and their heads checked. And I think we have one of the worst general managers. We have one of the best owners and one of the worst general managers. So. It's just too bad they happen to be the same guy.
I happen to be a hockey and baseball fan too, although I'm actually a Chicago Blackhawks fan.
Yeah.
And I am also a long-suffering Seattle Mariners fan. So.
How do you become? Oh wait, that's right, because you spent time up in Washington, right?
Yeah, I lived in Washington State in the Seattle area for about 12 years before I moved back to Oklahoma. To be honest, I think I'd rather be in Washington, but the Cards.
They do have better weather. And you worry less about tornadoes. But I spent 6 months in Seattle and I loved it. But Texas is home to me. So
understood. I mean, I'm actually going to be going to see the Dallas Stars at an exhibition game here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, because they're trying to become they're trying to become the team of the Southwest. So meaning Dallas.
It's going to be an exhibition game between the Stars and the Oilers.
That actually should turn out to be pretty fun. So
they've
got the Stars have a very intriguing team. They did the big trade over the summer, getting Tyler Seguin from the Boston Bruins, giving up Louis Eriksson, who was a fan favorite. People loved Louis Eriksson, but they liked this trade too, because Sagan's supposed to be their number one center, and if that ends up that way, well then Jamie Benn can go back to being the left wing, and that's what he's going to be, and they'll let the idea of Seguin and Benn on the same line just kind of makes some people just go into happy spots where they don't come out of. So, so I think that'll be a really fun line, and they'll be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I'm a pretty big Chicago Blackhawks fan, but I can see myself kind of taking them on as my second favorite team. I'm not. In the past, I was never a really huge Dallas Stars fan, although I was still a big hockey fan. But I'm starting to turn a little bit. Maybe it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm within a 3.5-hour drive of going to see them, as opposed to trying to drive 12 hours up to Chicago to see the Blackhawks play. And then I haven't looked at the schedule yet, but I'm sure that I wouldn't mind going to see the Blackhawks play the Stars.
Well, now that they're in the same division, you have plenty of opportunity.
Yeah. In fact, while we're talking here, let me take a look at the Stars' schedule for this year. This hockey season is coming up, and I am super excited about it. Let's see. They are... When are they playing? November 9th. Saturday, November 9th. They are playing in Dallas. So yeah, I can
at the AAC.
And then they're playing again later that month in Dallas on Friday, November 29th. So I've got a couple of chances to go.
Yeah.
And then looks like there's another one in December. So yeah, it looks like I've got a few chances to go down and see them. And
the advantage of being in the same division.
Yeah, and I've got to say I'm kind of liking the new uniforms.
I love them. I think they're really sharp.
Yeah.
And I miss the ones from the late '90s and that were on for most of the 2000s. The kind of overlapping star. I love that uniform, but for whatever reason, Reebok just can't make them, which makes zero sense to, or Nike just can't make them, but that's just how it is. And, this look, I think, is really classy. It's really old school. And I think, and I like the shade of green too.
I do too. I could see myself buying one just because I like it. Who would you say
white jersey looks better than the green jersey, but
yeah,
they're both great.
I would agree with that. Who would you say your favorite star is, if you had one?
Oh boy, that's like asking me to pick my favorite kid, even though I don't have one.
Let's even go all time. Let's not just talk about current. Let's talk about all time.
Right, that's what I mean, because you can't go wrong. I was always a big fan of, like, when they first came here, everybody was obviously a big fan of Shane Sherla, because he was the guy who was willing to fight, to get nitty gritty and to start slinging punches. And Pat Verbeek, the original little ball of hate, 600 goals. 500 goals, 600 penalty minutes. Steve Ott of who's now with the Buffalo Sabres, was my favorite for a while. He could, score goals and was willing to fight and just get under the opponent's skin, which is a fantastic thing to do. You know, I was a big Marty Turco fan when he was on the Stars. A very big Ed Belfour fan.
I'd have to go with Belfour myself.
With what?
I'd have to go with Belfour as my favorite star.
Yeah. I got a little annoyed with how his tenure kind of ended. You know, when he walked away from the team because he wasn't happy with how they were playing him and stuff like that. And you know, I'm not a big fan of players doing that. That's just my opinion. These days, you know, it's got to be Jamie Benn. I like Jamie Benn. He's probably going to be the new captain. If not him, you know, Brendan Dillon, one of their young defensemen, is a fun guy to watch. He's a great story. Undrafted, you know, played his way up. Undrafted in the WHL, undrafted in the NHL, and he was probably, outside of Stefan Rodina, probably their best defenseman last year. So you know, there's just some good stories there and good players, and we'll see, you know, how it kind of goes from there, and to give a long-winded answer, there are a lot of players I really like, and as much respect as I have for Mike Modano, he's not one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't willing to fight. And, you know, I like guys who stick up for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little upset that Belfour decided to end his career in Sweden. But yeah, I could see myself going down there and seeing a game every once in a while. And since, yeah, like you said, you know, the Blackhawks are in the same division, so now they're chance of them playing a lot more, so that'll be good.
Yeah, that should be that should be really fun. I like how the new divisions are set up. It's a little weird that the Red Wings are now in the East, which is bizarre.
Although a whole lot of sense.
I'm happy that I don't have to face them because they have been the bane of the Stars' existence for so long. That I'm happy that they don't have to face them that often anymore, but still, it's the Red Wings in the East just doesn't seem right to me.
No, not at all. So, comic books. What have you been reading lately?
You know, I've been reading American Vampire, actually, by Scott Snyder. I picked up the first couple of trades for that. It's a horror series that, believe it or not, the first few issues were written by Stephen King. Co-wrote some of those issues, and they were actually really good. A really good series, and really interesting kind of take on the American vampire and evolution. Without giving stuff away, it turns out that there's a new species of vampire that's out there that's only to the Americas, to the U.S. in particular, and you know, you still have the old European vampires. But you also have the kind of the new ones, and then you have groups that are hunting them because if there are vampires, there are going to be hunters, and it's pretty interesting. I'm about three trades in,
okay,
and it's worth reading. So American Vampire. I do like the new DC stuff that's out.
Yeah.
They recently restarted actually about 2 years ago, they restarted their universe.
Yep, New 52. It's been great.
Yeah, and there's been some stuff that I haven't been a big fan of. Other stuff that I think would have been better if they had kept. But you have to take risks. If you're in business, you have to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And they've taken one that is working. Probably not as much as they would like it to, and I think you have people who are not very happy. You do have some people who aren't very happy with it, who are like, well, this isn't the 52 that I grew up reading, and these aren't
right.
your dad's DC comics, and that's true. But
comics have to evolve with time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was saying that the new story that's running right now, The Forever Evil, is kind of interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. That's pretty much they did a smart thing with it. I thought when they finished Trinity War, they basically went on with. They went to the second part of Trinity War, which is Forever Evil, and basically the villains have taken over, for lack of a better discussion, and so that's what and so it's interesting to see kind of where they're going to go with that, how they're going to who's going to win, who's going to lose, because you've got, traditionally considered bad guys, Lex Luthor, I guess the Joker, although who knows with him, who are going to be forced to kind of defend the world because they want to take it over.
Right. It's going to be. I'm interested in seeing how it's going to play out. That's what I've been reading lately, as well as this new Batman story that's going on, the 0 year. That's turning out to be pretty interesting.
I like it. It's obviously you can't do, and it's good that they're not doing this. You can't do Batman Year One, which is the old Frank Miller,
right?
David Mazzucchelli, I think is how you say it, name title. You can't do that all over again. So you have to do something new, and that's what they're trying to do, without just being a complete retread.
Did you ever get a chance to read the trade paperback Batman Earth 1?
Something I didn't. I know what you're talking about. It's the one that Jeff Johns and Shane Davis did. Or no, I'm sorry, Gary Frank did.
Yeah. I'll have to say it. I'm a huge Batman fan, and I'm also a huge fan of Batman Year One. You can, that's got to be one of the best origin stories out there. But Earth One really kind of gives it a one run for its money. You should check it out.
Otherwise, for those who are wondering, if anybody ever saw Batman Begins, a lot of Batman Year One is in Batman Begins. Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely. It was a great movie, and based on a really great story. Now, see, I don't know what turn the 0 year is really going to take, because it's still kind of early in the storyline, and he really hasn't even become Batman yet. But it's a pretty interesting story. Another one that I don't know if you've read or not that is starting to be pretty interesting is the newest Flash. Flash number 23 is the introduction of Reverse Flash.
I have not, and it's just unfortunately due to budget limitations. I haven't read that, and Brian Booch and Francis. I'm not even going to try to say his name right because I know I'll screw it up. They do a good job. They really do, and they're a great team. I just haven't been able to sit down and pick it up.
Yeah, if you just pick up and start from 23, 23 is a really interesting story, and it definitely has a very interesting ending, and I'm really looking forward to the since this month is Villain Month in DC Comics. They're going to do the Reverse Flash issue of Flash, but I don't think it comes out until later in the month. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. But Taylor, there's not really a whole lot of people out there that I've noticed that I see mixing discussions of politics and comic books. Are there a lot of them out there, or is it just kind of?
There are more than I think people realize. John Brodigan from Right Hook Radio. He's also on the Snark Factor from time to time. He's and at Misfit Politics. He's a big comic book fan. He and I have had comic book discussions before. Also, I know Dina Fraioli, who's involved with Misfit Politics and does kind of some of her own stuff as a political consultant. She's a big fan of Nathan Edmondson, who's very active on Twitter. He does the activity. He does. He does Who is Jake Ellis, or Where is Jake Ellis? He's now doing the Splinter Cell comic books as well, and he's doing Dream Merchant. He's really active on Twitter and interacting with people on both sides of the aisle. I think he's a big comic book fan. Well, I mean, he writes it too, obviously. There are more out there than I think people realize. It's just being able to, and then you, of course, it's just being able to find them and have those discussions with them, because for the longest time I think comic books were considered kind of it's something that only kids do, and now that now it's not just kids who do it either. You have adults who are reading stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely been a kind of a comic book nerd for many, many years. I've got my son, unfortunately, kind of going that same way. I don't know if you heard the show. It's probably been at least probably about a month and a half now. I had Jay Oliva on with me, and that was a pretty good interview. Do you know who Jay is?
I don't, but it's always possible that I actually do.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Do you watch much of the DC animated movies?
Yeah.
Okay. The most recent one that he directed was the Flashpoint Paradox.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he directed that, and then how I heard of him is he was the director of the animated adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, I've only watched part 1 of that, but I have not watched part 2. But part 1 I really liked.
Yeah, part 2 is really good too. I've got both of them, so that's where I first heard about him, and I did a really short interview with him for my blog right about the time that one was being released. And then I just kept in contact with him, and once I kick-started this radio show thing, he was one of the first people I asked to get on, and he ended up coming on with me I want to say about the middle of July. It was right around Comic-Con. It was right. It was like it was the week after Comic-Con. So he was plugging the Flashpoint Paradox, that movie, which I thought was amazing. He also has early next year. He is directing the animated adaptation of the first, I guess it's like the first story arc of the Justice League in the New 52.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that too. He's been doing some really good stuff. It's going to be called Justice League War. I don't think an official release date has been set, and if it has, then I have been out of the loop.
I think they're still trying to get that figured out. So, but yeah.
It's coming out. Where is it? Yeah, there's still no official release date. I'm looking at the story now, so it'll be cool to see that come out. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool things going on in comic books right now. I don't really read a whole lot of Marvel. I'm kind of a DC kind of guy, so I don't pay too much of attention to what's going on in Marvel. I should probably have somebody come on and talk about Marvel comics one of these days.
I like the only book that I'm reading of Marvel is there are two books. One, Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's just a fantastically written and done and drawn book. It's just really, really good. I've been liking that. Cable and X-Force is a nice, and that's the title of the book, is Cable and X-Force, is a nice throwback to the 90s version of Cable, shoulder pads, guns, all sorts of really, really kind of cool stuff. I've always been a big fan of the Cable character when he's written right, as long as he doesn't come, pastiche. I think is how you say it, and it's a fun book. Well written. The stuff that sorry?
He's a favorite character of mine too.
The stuff that I really liked has been the stuff that Valiant has been doing. The newly redesigned Valiant universe, which was something from the early to mid 90s. It kind of caught the world by storm because it had guys like Barry Windsor Smith, Jim Shooter involved in it, and I never read the original stuff. I was too young for it. But the new revamped stuff that's being put out is really fantastic. Stories like Bloodshot, like Harbinger, like Archer and Armstrong, Quantum and Woody, Eternal Warrior. That's really, really good stuff. And the stuff that Dark Horse is doing, whether it's the Hellboy titles, whether it's The Massive by Brian Wood, which is a post-apocalyptic dystopian book. Just really, really, really good. There's plenty of good stuff out there if you want more than just, capes and cowls.
Yeah. And like you said, the budget constraints kind of limit your limit what you can read.
Yeah. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Eric Burnham, who's doing the Ghostbusters title, and he's also writing Scarlet Spider, co-writing Scarlet Spider for Marvel. I've known him since before he was doing all the Marvel stuff, so I'm real happy for him.
That's great. Another comic book that is not published by one of the big three, I guess you'd say, or big two, or however you want to look into that, it's been going for a while, and I think they just released their milestone 200th issue. The name of the comic book, it's kind of a comedy book. It's Knights of the Dinner Table.
I know what you're talking about. Never read it, but I know what you're talking about.
It's hilarious. My first wife actually found a couple issues of this in a thrift store back around, I want to say probably around 2004, 2005. She was just at a thrift store, and she knew I liked comic books, and she picked these up completely by random. I don't know what possessed her to pick up these titles, but she picked up like 4 or 5 of them and brought them home and said, "Here, I got you some comics," and I read them, and I'd never heard of them, and I was just like, "This is hilarious. I've got to find more of these." So I've got a lot of the trades, a lot of the collected edition. But that's definitely, if you get a chance, it's that title is a little bit pricey. One, because it's really thick, and it's a really lesser known comic book company. In fact, I don't think they even put out more than a handful of titles. But it is definitely worth checking out if you can find it at a used somewhere. They're definitely worth checking out. And
cool.
What that book is about is if you or any of your friends were ever gamers, like role-playing gamers, tabletop type, like Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot.
Yeah.
This comic book is basically about a group of people who are gamers, RPGers, and it goes through their little misadventures and does and what's going on in their lives. And one of the main characters is a guy that owns a gaming store, and it's a really funny book. It's definitely worth if you yourself are a fan of role playing games, or if you know any friends. Because every time I read one of them, I'm going, "Oh, this is exactly like so and so."
But have you ever paid attention to Venture Brothers?
Venture Brothers, no.
Yes, the Adult Swim show. All right.
No, I actually watch much TV.
Venture Brothers is amazing. It makes fun of kind of everything from Hardy Boys to not Tom Swift. Help me out here. Haji, all that fun stuff.
Okay.
To comic books, to just kind of everything. That is a fantastic. That's a fantastic.
John
series.
Quest, is that what you were thinking of?
Yes, Johnny Quest.
Okay. I just found it on Netflix.
It's fantastic. It's got Patrick Warburton as one of the stars. It's just great. It's a fantastic show. Fantastic show.
It does appear that the first season of the Venture Brothers is on Netflix for streaming, so that should be interesting.
I will say this: adults only. Adults
right.
only. Kids, A, are not going to get the humor. B, it's too high for them. Second off, the first, the first shows are kind of, it kind of takes a little bit to get into, but the second season is just amazing, and it just gets kind of better after that. So,
well, speaking of TV shows, have you ever gotten a chance to see that reality show, Comic Book Men?
No, I stay away from reality TV.
Well, this one's not bad. It's actually, I do too. I'm totally with you on that. But what it is, it's a reality show put out by Kevin Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about his comic book shop in Red Banks.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been to Red Bank.
Yeah, so he owns
and that place itself. So yeah.
Yeah. So the show is based around that show and its employees.
Cool.
So it's actually, I mean, I'm with you. Like I said, I don't like reality shows, but this one's pretty cool. Because of course it's about comic books, so why would it not be cool? But it's good, and I really don't watch a whole lot of TV. I am looking forward to in October when Arrow comes back on. And then of course I'll start watching The Walking Dead again. But other than that, I only watch maybe 3 or 4 shows. I watch Big Bang Theory, of course. Big fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, actually, I do like a show that they play on AMC called Hell on Wheels.
Something, I wanted to get into that show. I wanted to get into that. It looks interesting. I don't have AMC, but that looks interesting.
Do you have
I like the shows I like, Justified, Burn Notice, although I'm like 3 seasons behind on that. Sons of Anarchy. Those are some of the shows that I really like. I'm not a massive comedy fan, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, now, do you have Netflix?
I don't.
Okay.
I do have Amazon Prime, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can get Netflix streaming only, which is what I do. I don't get physical DVDs from them. I just do the streaming plan.
As Liz, my co-host, tells me all the time.
Yeah, it's like $8 a month, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But the reason I mention that is both season 1 and season 2 of Hell on Wheels is available on there, and that is actually how I caught up with that show.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it's a pretty good show. It's a period piece. It's about when the railroad is coming
being done.
So it's post Civil War. So I'm also kind of a bit of a history nerd, so that appealed to that side of me as well.
I was a history major, so.
There you go. So it's an interesting time for comic books, and a very interesting time for politics. And if you can ever get them to meet, that'd be interesting. And I do give it a shot on this show to try to cover both of them.
Yeah. No, it's a fun. It's a fun genre. It's something that more conservatives and libertarians need to be willing to get into, not necessarily just going, out and out. Okay, this is okay. Let's do stuff that preaches conservative and libertarianism. No, there are ways to do it without beating people over the head.
Right.
One of the reasons why I don't think that Civil War was Marvel's Civil War was as successful as it could have been was it basically became a critique of the Iraqi War and a critique of neoconservatism by a socialist.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of ways to critique neoconservatism and say, okay, they're wrong when they discuss wanting to do interventionism, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean there are ways that you can critique it, but you need to have a good story involved in it. And when Mark Millard, the writer started beating people over the head with socialism, it just kind of killed it. It really just kind of killed it. So
yeah, I didn't read much of that storyline because I started reading it and then it just kind of turned me off. Wasn't.
Yeah.
But then again, go ahead.
Yeah, and Mark Millard can be a good writer. His Old Man Logan series I thought was great. That he did with Steve McNiven. I thought that was really good. I liked Wanted, which even if the main character is look-wise is based on Eminem. Superman Red Son was really good. Yeah, so he can be a good writer, but the problem is when you beat people over the head with stuff. One of the best written books out there was is V for Vendetta, which classic by Alan Moore and David Lloyd, and it's a critique, wrongfully I think, a wrongful critique of Thatcherian England. Moore was like, oh my gosh, it's going to go to tyranny. Well, it obviously that didn't happen, but it's an excellent look at the problems that you run into when the state starts to overreach, more and more and more and more. And that's why that's something that people need to pick up and read and understand that it was written during the 80s. So there's going to be stuff that you're just going to sit there going, what? And it's British, so it's something you're going to go, okay, huh? But the idea of man fighting against the overreaching state is something which, I think is important, especially now with, with the NSA, with drones, with the Patriot Act, all sorts of stuff.
Right. Yeah, he definitely hit some nerves with that V for Vendetta book.
Did you ever watch the? Did you ever watch the movie, the V for Vendetta movie?
Oh yeah.
I didn't. The stuff that they took directly from the book, I thought was great.
Yeah.
When they tried to make it just a critique of the Iraq War, I just kind of threw my hands up in the air. But maybe I need to rewatch it and see how I feel about it.
I enjoyed it. I tried to look past as much as you can, look past the social commentary in the film, and just watch it as a entertainment value. But I did like the movie actually. I think they probably could have found somebody better than Natalie Portman to play lead character. But I think Hugo Weaving did a good job with playing the V character, but Natalie didn't really do it for me.
Yeah. You know, some people like it, some people don't. But
I tell you, it is better than probably by far one of the worst comic book movie adaptations out there, which I think has to be Constantine.
Never saw it.
So you're not missing anything. Don't even bother.
I never saw it because I was like, no.
Well, if you are a fan of at all of that character, if you are a fan of that character, Constantine, as far as comics books go, don't watch that movie.
I do not need Mr. Woe to,
Yeah. But then there's another subject. There's been a lot of really good comic book adaptation movies coming out. I don't know how you thought about it, but I'm actually a big fan of the Man of Steel movie.
I am not a very big fan of Superman. I'm just not. I like Batman over Superman. Man of Steel was awesome.
I'm with you on that too.
Man of Steel was fantastic.
Yeah. So I gotta say, since you are a Batman fan like I am, Ben Affleck.
I don't care. I don't care, honestly. I think that they have they have some good players. All right, they have some good pieces. I think Ben Affleck is a better actor than a lot of people give him credit for the simple reason that it's Ben Affleck and
Well, I like him in Argo.
I never saw Argo, but I thought he did a good job with The Town. I didn't want to give him that credit, but
was that a horror movie?
With The Town. As I just knock down all my comic books and scare my cat.
The Town. Is that a horror movie?
What, The Town?
Yeah.
No, it's a crime film.
Okay, I must be thinking of something else. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Phantoms.
Yeah, he was in that, wasn't he? There's some good stuff. He's done some good stuff, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with him as the cast. I thought probably the best reaction was I think it was Ben Dominique, who goes, why are people tweeting about Ben Affleck? And then he goes, oh no, screw you, Zack Snyder, screw you in the ear.
Yeah, he was good in I enjoyed Dogma.
I never saw Dogma.
Was good.
I just wasn't interested in it.
Well,
I mean, he's not a horrible actor.
I'm going to give him I've gotten to the point now. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So
we'll see how it works out.
We'll see what happens.
Well, Taylor, we got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to we'll have to have you on again sometime. Talk about comic books more. And I'm actually going to be down in Dallas, if not sooner. I will be in Dallas late November for the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination.
That will certainly be interesting.
So we'll have to I'll have to look you up when I get down there.
All right. I I know a good I know a good Mexican food place we can go to.
Oh,
so
great! I love Mexican food.
Yeah,
so,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was very enjoyable. Don't get a chance to comment on the show.
Always fun to talk comic books.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to have you on again sometime. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll be talking to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Hey, bye.
All right, well, folks, we had a pretty good conversation, mostly about comics there with Taylor. He does write for the Free Radical Network. If you're interested in seeing reading that, it's just freeradicalnetwork.com. He also does some writing for Misfit Politics, and that one is misfitpolitics.com. And then, as I mentioned, it's misfitpolitics.com. And if you are interested in hearing him on the radio, internet-based radio show, Right War, as I mentioned before he came on, it's Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FTR Radio. Definitely worth checking out. I get on and listen to it when I get a chance. But before we get out of here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close us out with another song. Before I close us out here, I just want to let you know we are here every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Outer Limits. Also have the website, otterlimits.us. You can check me out also on Twitter. It's Otter272. And then on Facebook, if you get on that, it's facebook.com/The Otter Limits. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. And I'm going to close this out with a song by the Thermals. This is from